What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. I have Reefing with on today, who is a fellow gear junkie. How are you doing, buddy?
I am good. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Excellent. So, how are the tanks? It's been a little while since I've had you on.
Tanks. What you can't see, so the tanks are overall doing fine.
Excellent.
I think I've done any crazy gear stuff since we spoke. I have a lot of stuff that's waiting in the wings, ozone and some other things, but
Mhm.
nothing crazy, I don't think.
Yeah. Are you
I,
running?
I did set up I did set up a new tank. I don't know if you can see the blue right on my desk.
Yeah. Don't.
So it's like a 3 gallon. It's gonna be like a softy reef. I was inspired by that Jake Adams tank where he went a year without doing a water change or messing with it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's what I'm gonna do with this one.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. You got to put a glass lid on it. Part of not evaporating and all that's part of the key of it all.
Try working on it.
Yeah. Have you, speaking on that note, I don't know if you need to deal with chillers and stuff where you are, but have you seen those little Petri ones, those super tiny little mini chillers? I see Derek's in the chat. I know he was playing with one, actually on his computer, which I'm curious to see how that's working. But for fish tanks, like those super tiny chillers.
Are those the ones that you kind of have to drill the tank, like the Iceworks CXC or something chiller? There's a few that I've messed with, and um, I ended up, it didn't work for me.
Mm,
So first, let me answer the question. Yes, absolutely. You probably can. I turned it down for the, but I absolutely have to use a chiller. In
yeah.
my kids' room, I ended up going with like one of those fans that you kind of clip onto the back seat of a car.
Hmm.
Um, I went with one of those, but I don't. I don't know. I got to learn more about that, Derek. But I absolutely need chillers for all my tanks.
Yeah. Do you know what I actually made the other day? Have you seen Harry's little like hang on fan thing that he made?
Contacted Harry about it, and I think he said I tried to buy it off his website, and he said he has to like custom order it for you or custom.
Yep.
I don't think he has them for order. So yeah, the minute I saw it on his website, I did. I
Yeah.
hit him up.
Nice. I made those the other day because I had they're actually like props to him because it's a really sleek design because it hides the majority of it behind your tank, which is good for me because I like minimalistic. So I his was made for like a much thinner tank than mine, so I printed off a little block that I double side taped to the tank so it hangs just behind the back of the tank. And I have two 3000 RPM industrial Noctua fans on that baby. So it's kind of on the too loud side, but if the tank gets too hot, they should definitely help cool it down.
All
So
right, I
yeah.
I I'm running hydros, so
Mhm.
the thing I think that's why they're not available. Like because I think Harry has to rewire them for the hydro.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I contacted Harry. The minute I saw them, I was immediately interested. So, um, yeah, I want to try that. I hit up Harry. Like, I feel like Harry hears. I was looking at my chat history with Harry the other day, and it goes back like quite a while. Like me just asking him so many questions. I bought a ton of stuff from Harry.
Nice. Ah, that's awesome. Yeah, he has some cool designs. I like it. I like all the DIY aspects of it, so it makes me happy to see lots of people being creative and doing new cool things for the hobby. So yeah, hopefully that works well. We'll find out. Next week's supposed to be in the 30s, and I'm gonna be away next week, so I was a bit worried. So it inspired me to get my button gear and finish building those last night.
All right, so you know what? I don't know if you. I don't know if we're just if we're ready to start. But what kind of
Mm-hmm.
tech stuff or gear, additional gear? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be going through this when I because I'm leaving for 11 days.
Yeah.
So what do you do gear wise to prep right before you go on vacation?
So big thing for me is like I'll make sure that like there's lots of filter roller left. I'll empty all the skimmer cups, right? Make sure your ATO bins are full. Most of my stuff's automated, so I mean it refills itself, so it's not too big of a deal. I auto water change, make sure that's full, not gonna run out. But yeah, like a skimmer alarm going off, like the way it would kill me if that's triggers alert and is beeping the whole time, and so I got to make sure all that stuff's not really an issue when I'm gone. Same thing, I guess, if you're dosing, make sure they're topped off. My slight worry is because I don't know if you watched my stream from a week or two ago, but on like the calc slurry stuff.
Ooh,
So I've
yes.
I've been dabbling with that now. So I've been trying to figure out all the advanced GHL programming in the last few days. So I have the calcium reactor going now, and that is worked off there, right? So it keeps it in range, but now I've also added the calc slurry onto there again, so it also doses within the elk range. So I'm also having it pay attention to the pH. So it doses if they're both within that window, or if they follow the window, then it'll dose the calc slurry if the pH and the elk is too low. So I'm trying to do this like complicated version to dial in multiple dosing methods. So I'm fingers crossed this is all going to be worked out for when I'm gone.
Uh, so your wife is you're gonna be gone. Is your wife gonna be home?
Yeah, she's home. She
Uh,
just feeds the tank. That's all. That's all I got.
all right,
So the rest
all
has to be
right,
automated.
all right. So no one will be here, and anyone. So I think no matter how much shtick my wife gives me, she is pretty in tune with what's happening in the tank. Like I buy something and she walks past, she's like, new coral, right? So she's no matter what she says, she's in tune.
She
So
knows.
no one's going to be here for 10 days, and anyone who comes, I have to make sure that anything they do is kind of foolproof. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
even thinking of like setting up, I don't think my ATO is going to last that time, so I might have to set up
A big one.
like maybe use my mixing bins and use stuff like that, or maybe set up a camera and have like a 5 gallon bucket or something feed my. I'm gonna have to. There's a
An
lot of
auto
thought
tail
process.
ATO for your ATO.
Yes, but I'm
Oh,
gonna wait
yeah.
until it's solo, and then
Mm-hmm.
you pump like a 5 gallon bucket. I might just take my ring camera off my door and put it inside and use it as
Yeah.
kind of my.
Why don't you just put it in a bigger bucket temporarily? Like I know I've used like a brute trash can in the past when I went away, type of thing.
That is my backup. But if I buy like a 10 gallon brew trash can,
Yeah.
I have nowhere to store it.
What do you mix your salt
Um,
water in?
in a 20 gallon. What?
Use that. If you already have
No,
it.
I already have one.
Yeah, use that.
So yeah.
Okay, quick shout out, John Reef Vermont. Let's get the party started. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Yes, but if you already have that saltwater bin, I would totally use that because you already have it. Now, make sure if it's going to your sump that's lower that you have a siphon break.
Mhm.
When I was away with one of my buddies for my wedding, he had someone, a tank sitter, looking after his tank. And I remember getting this photo because he didn't have a siphon break. So the first time the ATO kicked on, it was like whoop, it leveled out with the big brute container. It was literally like a millimeter from overflowing his sump. He got so lucky that it didn't. But
Did he
like
lose any livestock?
no, nothing. Like he completely lucked out. But yeah, it was crazy that it was like literally within like a millimeter too. Like it looked like it was a zero edge aquarium overflowing. That's how full it was. It was crazy.
Interesting. My ATO container is 3 feet high. I had it custom made by Advanced Acrylic, so
Mm-hmm.
it's only about 8 inches wide, 3 feet deep,
Yeah,
but like about yeah, but about 3 feet high. So I
yeah,
made it custom for an area. So I always have to use a siphon break with that. In
perfect.
fact, I think the first time I used that ATO and it overflow, I quite couldn't quite figure it out. I think you and I spent some time on the phone
Yeah,
figuring out what the heck was going on with that.
yeah, it's a
All
good way
right.
to do it. Now, here's another thought for you. On my frag tank beside me, it has like a 5 gallon container. Maybe it's 10 gallons, but it burned through really quick on this frag tank. It only lasts a couple days. So, and what it does is I have the Flood Guardian. So it's that little thing with an optical sensor that will shut off a solenoid once it gets wet. So I put that on a timer and hooked up to my RODI. So every 3 days, it turns it on for like 5 hours. It lets it refill the container, and if it hits the optical sensor, it turns it off. And if it doesn't fill in 5 hours, then that's all it gets until 3 more days later. But that works really well. I also have the float valve on there as well. So I'm basically hooked up to my RDI. So it refills itself every 3 days.
All right. Um, I am using. Okay. All right.
Yep.
You've given me some ideas. I have
Mm-hmm.
some other Tunzi ATOs that I'm not using. So maybe if I decide to go maybe I can have an ATO for my ATO, but use an actual ATO.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You could ATO your ATO.
All right.
But that's gonna, yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah.
that little Flood Guardian thing on a timer works really well. So that's a good one.
Blood Guardian. I
Yep.
think I know what that is.
It's
What?
Auto XP Aqua. I don't remember which one it is, but it's one of the two. But it's a solenoid and a little magnetic optical, and then you can
Okay. I
just
know what it is.
yeah,
All right. I see. I know what it is. All right. All right. All right. All
you
right.
could do
And
that on a smart plug, Automate it when you're gone. Let it refill every 4 days or something. Throwing it out there.
Ton of those. I also have. I You just reminded me as I was looking up the flood guardian, because I live in an apartment and
Mm-hmm.
I have probably caused too many, you know, overflows.
Mm-hmm.
I have float valves on every ATO container. So
Yep.
literally, when I'm going to bed, I plug them in and it shuts off my. So you know what? I think I'm a lot set than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might be. I don't think I need any new. It just needs. I just need to sit down and think about it for a little bit. But I think I have everything I need.
Yeah, you totally do. This is why you're on the stream today. You are a gear junkie and you buy everything and you try everything. So you probably have it in a closet somewhere hiding. It's true.
True.
Yep.
True. True.
Okay, John Reef for
True.
Vermont. If you have the option for a Chaeto reactor or a Refugium, which one would you choose and why? Refugium in general is less work. Chaeto reactors are kind of nice because they contain it and keep your sump cleaner in a sense, but they're more of a pain to clean. Where a Refugium is just pull it out. If you have the space, Refugium I find is just easier to clean and maintain.
I feel the same way. Refugium, you get more life, usually get
Mm-hmm.
more pods. It's usually less maintenance. If I'm not there, I can always have my wife put on some gloves, grab some Chaeto. It's just easy maintenance overall. While a
Mm-hmm.
Chaeto reactor, you have to think about plumbing it. It's an extra pump,
Yep.
usually. I do have, funny enough, I got like I can't reach for it, but I got a Pax Bellum sitting like right to the left of me.
Yeah.
I prefer a Refugium, hands
Okay.
down, um, hands down to a Chaeto reactor.
Yep.
But
Okay.
they're fine if you have to
Yep.
use a Chaeto reactor, use one.
Yep.
But Refugium,
Now we're on the subject of algae export. Have you used an algae turf scrubber?
I have never. I
What? Yeah.
thought. I think. My thought process is that they're more work. A Chaeto reactor, I've left it before where it's overgrown and the Chaeto just gets really dense and packs
Mm-hmm, I
until
get
there's
you.
no water growing through it. But
Yep.
I've seen, I don't know if it was CJ when he was using one, when he
Mm-hmm.
didn't keep up with it, it just sloughed off and just, um, it could have been a design thing but I think I've seen it a couple of times where it, like the algae just fell off and just clogged return pumps or something. So I don't, that,
So I've never.
correct me if I'm wrong.
So I have one. I've never had it fall off like that. I think if you were using too much GFO or doing something where the algae was weak, then it could be more likely to come off. Huge advantage I'd say is they contain it all, like in a sense, kind of like a shade reactor, but you get a lot of output for its size. And if you want your sump all pristine, because it's all self-contained and you don't have a big algae chamber, so it's a trade-off. But on like a fish system or something like that, they're also going to pull like ammonia and other stuff from the hair algae, and the hair algae grows quicker than Chaeto because it's a single cell, like a simpler algae, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, they definitely have advantages. I don't know. I have a different one on each tank, and it's hard to say which one if I could only have one because they each have their pros and cons.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. I guess it's no different than, yeah, because a Chaeto reactor, um it can take a while to get the right Chaeto to get going.
Mm-hmm.
I see. I don't
Yep.
know at this time if it's one for me, but
Mm-hmm.
I think on a different tank. I think it's something
Oh,
I haven't tried before.
uh,
Always intrigued.
another thought. If your algae is falling, you could be starving your refugium. Like if you are low on like iron and molybdenum and all those type of things. Like if you're dosing something like Chaeto Grove, that's going to replenish all the stuff that the algae needs, right? Like I know the Pax Bellum comes with one. I mean, I'm dosing the Brightwell Chaeto Grow to my big
Chaeto
tank,
grow.
which makes sure you're not limiting the growth of your algae. So that's another one to consider. That could be why too his was falling off if he was iron deficient or molybdenum or whatever the third one is that I can never remember. Yeah, yeah,
So do
yeah,
you
Chaeto.
think even with the even with even with the simpler algae, you think you still need to replenish those things?
Yep, 100%.
Okay. All right.
Did
Okay.
your I don't know if your Pax Bellum came with it, but I know.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, see, there you
This
go.
is
They give
this
you
is like
some
my
with it
third PAX.
because they want
Yes.
you to succeed.
Yeah. And I think you and I had this discussion in private where I was like, I had an epiphany. I was like, there's a reason they give you molybdenum. Still can't pronounce it. and
What's
iron and
exactly?
nitrates.
Yes. Tracy, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm gonna see if I can find the bottle because I can't remember what the third one is and it bugs me. Give me one second. I think I have some on the shelf somewhere.
My shelf is too far.
I gotta keep shelf close. Iron, cobalt, molybdenum, cobalt. So that's the other common one. And is it
Okay.
manganese maybe? Molybdenum. Yeah, manganese. That's the other one.
Yeah.
Maybe there's another one,
I
but
I think that's the stuff that's also separates like regular Triton from, because I think that's where I had that epiphany when I was doing the Triton method, and I think that's some of the stuff that separates like regular Triton from like the one with the refugium. It just
mm-hmm.
has those elements that encourage algae growth.
Yeah, 100%, right? So that's why with the Triton, you have the refugium and the non-refugium version, right? If you don't have a refugium and you're supplementing all these things to make algae grow, it's probably going to have an effect on your tank, right? Where if you have a refugium, then it's sucking up those nutrients. So that is kind of why it's important to pay attention to it, because that's
Yep.
probably one that where most people are like, why does it make a difference? And it's 100% those elements. You know, that
Yep.
the Shado green screen.
Yeah, I have a bottle of that too.
Yeah.
I was cleaning out my and I think I have every product Brightwell makes. So I am a Brightwell fan without knowing
Oh,
it. It just so happens.
I have a question. Have you ever tried their nitrator or nitrate R or something like that? It's like a resiny gel that absorbs nitrates.
No.
I want to try it. I'm curious. I'm trying to find someone that's tried it. I was talking to Mark Levinson about it, and I saw he posted a thing that he actually bought some. So I'm like, haha, perfect test subject. So I've been
Right.
super curious to see how well that works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
phosphate is the issue I'm battling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the last round where I made my own fish food, I think I went overboard with that, where I think I just packed it with like too much like food. If
Yeah.
anyone is in the New York area and has zero nutrients, like hit me up. See me at Wrap. Hit me up before Wrap, and I'll give you some food. And I can almost guarantee you won't have zero nutrients after. But I think I went overboard with just. I went on like Saltwater Aquarium and bulk resupply, and I literally bought every fish food they had,
Really, and just blend it all
everything they
together.
had. Yes, along with squid, calanus,
Hmm.
shrimp. I went swimming last year. I went to the Jersey Shore last year, and I caught a bunch of clams, maybe 20 clams, shucked those, put them in like seafood, tuna. Yeah.
Nice.
So,
That's good though. Your fish are spoiled. Mine don't get that big
yes.
variety. I mean, they do, but not nearly to that extent. So
So my
spoiled.
nitrates stay at about 10, but my
Oh, that's not bad.
phosphates, if I don't use lanthanum chloride, it'll be 1, not
Really.
point 0.1, 1,
Do you
1.
do you use GFO at all, or just lanthanum
I
chloride?
don't use GFO. I'm trying to stay away from it. I thought you were going to tell me about another Brightwell resin that works for phosphates, but anything, I am trying not to go the GFO route.
Question: Why? What is your logic?
Just the reactor.
Fair.
Just no. I know that will work, and it's
Yeah.
not like if I can't, I. It's just I'm just trying everything else first.
Okay. So I'm the GFO route now, and I'm debating going more towards the lanthanum route, mainly because I'm dosing all these trace elements. Like I'm doing a mix of like the Brightwell broad spectrum ones, and then I'm tweaking with like the moonshiner stuff. And I know GFO is probably pulling out some of that, which feels a little bit counterproductive. So that's why I've been starting to like debate the lanthanum route a bit more. But I also know some tangs it can be a little harder if you do too much, and I have a bazillion tangs, so I'm like back and forth. But I might
Yeah,
dabble with it. Do you dilute it first, or
every
do you dose it that is, or
no, but every time I use lanthanum, I use a quarter of what they say, and it
mm-hmm.
still bottoms out my phosphates.
Really?
Yes, because that thing they so on my lanthanum, I'm using phosphate RX by the way, which I think is lanthanum. So
Yep,
it'll say 6 drops. So
it is.
last week my phosphates were 1,
Mm-hmm.
and it said 6 drops per 10 gallon. So I have a 75 and a 10 hooked up together and a 20-gallon sump. So I say, okay, I got 50 gallons. So I calculated to do, all right, I'm going to bring it down in 2 sets. So I'm going to do 3 per per gallon, which is supposed to only bring it down by half. By a quarter, 0.
Really?
Yeah, so that's, I don't know what it is with. So just be, anyone who's thinking of doing it, just be really careful with it. And I drip it, I can drip it down the overflow. I just, as soon as you drip it, 2 seconds later, you hear the clarity turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that quick, eh?
Hmm.
Well, at least it's taking it out. Now, the
Yeah.
Clarity, I think it's 20 micron-ish. I know some people recommend using like 5 micron, but I mean, if it's working, it's working. I've debated if I do it, doing like super tiny micro doses, so it just, um, another buddy, I just filmed a video on his, and he drilled a hole in his skimmer lid, and he's dripping it directly into the skimmer. So skimmer is
Uh-huh.
kind of like the reaction chamber for it.
Ah,
Yeah.
I I've considered using a dosing pump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have like a micro pump. Like, okay, let's start because I got so many dosing pumps. I could choose one, but I have I I was thinking of like putting a line. Well, I was thinking of the micro pump because the tubing for that is really skinny. So I think I can get it through my screen at top, like
Mm-hmm.
through the side and down the overflow, and I could just drip it like
Yeah.
a few per day and just do it that way.
I would do it super duper slow
Yeah,
personally, but if you can get like a very slow drip and do a smidge every day rather than dropping it down one day and let it go back up and drop it down, is going to be more stable overall and your tank will be happier.
yeah. In that case, I think I might just maybe I'll just drip it in the Clarity
Yeah.
directly and just use a Versa because I trust the Versa with those like
Yep.
small amounts. So
Yeah. You can do like 0.01 of a mil type of deal, like super slow.
yeah.
Now,
Uh,
if you can do it into your overflow, I don't know if you want to tube over top your tank, but it gives a lot more reaction time. I found when I was doing some experiments before, it does need a bit of time to bind with the phosphates in the water. So if you do it too quick into the filter roller, like I don't know if it will bind quick enough. It might. I don't know. It's worth a
okay.
try.
I do hear it move, but I think you're right. Um, I think
That's
you're
what.
right.
Yeah. So if you dripped it in the overflow area, give it time to mix with all the turbulent water in the box, then it go down the pipe, then into the filter roller. And I don't know, try both ways and let me know if there's a difference. But I think a little bit more reaction time would give it more time to bind with phosphate. Maybe.
What do you tell me a little bit more about where you say your friend was doing it directly into skimmer
Yep.
because that might be something.
Yep. So he drilled. It might be next week's video. I filmed it the other day with him.
Okay.
But basically he said his skimmer gets all like super thick and nastiness, which my assumption is that's the flocculants, I guess, in a sense. But when it binds into little particles with the phosphate. But basically, he drilled a hole in his skimmer cup and he drips it through the lid so that the reactions all happen inside of his skimmer,
Okay.
which is kind of a cool way to do it too.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I
Well,
see something happening in the chat with Lennox Lewis, but I don't know.
I think they were
Okay.
saying you sound like him,
Oh,
if I recall every
Jamaican.
word. I have to Google him quickly.
Yeah, I like Bright Grow, Shado Grow.
Yeah.
definitely have a bottle of that.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Derek was asking if I have any clams. I have one,
Mm-hmm.
and I am planning on picking up a few at Reefapalooza next week. I know Clammania is going to be there.
Nice.
Um, yeah, definitely. Um, definitely.
Clams are awesome.
Ooh, I know. Clam Refugium. I know Ryan from BRS says
I want to see someone
that.
do one. It'd be sweet.
You know what? I'm telling you, I would definitely do one. It
Mm-hmm.
would not be a refugium in the refugium sense. It
Yep.
would be like, like how you have the bubble tip tank?
Yep. A clam tank piped in. Clam tank's
Ooh.
coming. I know what your next project's going to be. Get like a
But
shallow lagoon tank, like an IM 25 or 50 lagoon, and make it like a sweet clam tank.
this tank, I wouldn't say is fully leaking. So I'm using the X Aqua in and out overflow
Is
for
that
this.
super tiny one?
Yeah, that I
Yep.
think is distributed by Two Little Fishies. But I've had this one long before it became popular, and I don't know if I did something wrong, but there's a few times where it leaks, like drips, And I was thinking the same thing you were thinking, like replace it with like a 25 lagoon, but they don't make the 25 lagoon with the back chamber anymore.
Hmm.
They're
Really?
hard to find. They're hard to find. I can't find them anymore. And the one with the external overflow
Hmm.
is cannot fit in the space. What I was going to do is drill the back myself and
Yeah,
still have it drain into the back compartment, but just have that drain into my sump.
could
Um,
work.
but I can't find it. I literally can't find it.
Huh.
I can't find it.
Interesting. We'll come up with something good if you can keep adding into it. Okay, so how many? You have two tanks plumbed into one, right? Currently.
Yep.
So we're going for three next.
The clam one sounds really interesting, man. I'm probably going to be moving. So, well, definitely going to be moving soon, next year or so. So, you got to think about, you know,
Oh,
if
this is
you're
true.
putting up something new,
Yeah,
you know.
I would probably if I was moving, I'd probably leave it as a standalone tank and then pipe it in once you're somewhere new and you know you're not touching it for a long time. Be pretty good.
Hmm.
So, so other interesting news with the So last week I was talking when I had them on, we were talking about dosing calc slurry to the tank.
Hmm.
And I've been doing a little bit of a hybrid approach where I have Kalkwasser in there with the stir, but I'm letting it stir for 1 minute every 20 minutes. That way, the whole chamber stays in a milky state. And I'm dosing that milk. And that actually had a pretty solid boost on my pH. But then again, my elk creeped up way too high. So that's why I started doing all this other automation stuff with the GHL to make sure it only doses within a certain range of my parameters. But so that's what I'm dabbling with. But it's definitely made a big difference. Like I'm going to give it a month or two, and if it stays working well, I might try and implement something on the big tank. So we'll see.
I was having a heart attack listening to that conversation because I've crashed my tank
Uh,
um,
yeah.
with calc before. So
Now,
I was having a heart attack. Like,
oof.
I was having like a mini heart attack. Hear you guys talking about dosing slurry. I was like, geez. It's one of those where I'm using calc and I know
Yep.
the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using the Avast calc stir, and I can see because I tend to fill my Avast up higher because I want less reaction time,
Mm-hmm.
because I want the calc more potent by the time it doses. But without calc and without keeping my alkalinity between 9 and 10, I wouldn't be able to have a decent pH. Or and plumbing my skimmer line outside, I wouldn't be able to have a decent pH. So I know the benefits of doing anything to, like increasing your pH,
Yep.
but I'm not prepared to
Now,
do the.
okay. Sorry for bringing up the sore question, but what happened when your tank crashed because of calc? Like, was it in your ATO? Did a
It
pump get
was in my
stuck on?
ATO. It
Okay,
was in
so
an ATO. Skimmer overflowed, and then it
kept
overflowed.
dumping.
Yes,
Oof, okay. So
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I would not advise doing this in an ATO just because you can't control it. And like,
Hmm.
what if you sell a frag or something and you take a bunch of water and if you have to replace it, and boom, it dumps in a ton of calc. So that's always scared me a little bit. Um, I like the reactor approach because you have a continuous duty pump running super slow and it's just very consistent and controlled. That's the only way I would personally want to do calc because any other way it seems too like unstable, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have mine dose 100 mil per hour. Like it changes. It doses more at night and then less throughout the day.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
replaces about 2 liters of. My auto top off rarely has to come on.
Hmm. That works. Nice.
Um, so about 2 liters. I can dose more in the summer, but that amount stays constant during the winter and the summer because
Yeah.
there's a huge difference in our humidity and therefore evaporation here in New York from the summer to winter. So about 1.8, about 2. I
That's not too
forgot the
bad of a
exact
swing,
number.
surprisingly. Actually, I thought you'd have more. Hmm.
Yeah,
I know.
there's a huge difference in winter. Winter, when we have our heaters on, the air is a lot drier. We evaporate a lot more than the summer,
Yeah.
especially now that I don't use fans.
Hmm.
I always thought it was the opposite, that summer is hotter, so you evaporate more. But no, summer
Hmm.
is more humid. You
Yeah.
evaporate less.
I know for me, because I've been leaving the windows all open, so it's just mixing with outside air. So like my current humidity in the house is 29% right now in my office. But in the winter, that'd be like 45, 50 something, right? So it's a huge difference on that one.
Mm.
John,
I
I am thinking
go
of
ahead.
switch. Oh, sorry, I'm reading John's comment. John, thank you for the super chat. Is that two today? Holy smokes, man! Thank you. I'm thinking of switching from Refugium to Reactor because I can then add ozone onto the calcium reactor to offset the Refugium needed. I can bump up water changes. So add ozone to the calcium reactor. Okay, so ozone. Oh, ozone and the calcium reactor. Okay, so ozone goes through your skimmer. Another thing with the calcium reactor, if you feed the output of your calcium reactor through your skimmer, that will also help off gas some. That's a little trick I learned from Chris that had a little bit of a boost. And thanks for the second super chat. You're an all-star today. Thank you very much.
One of the reasons I got a Pax Bellum is when I was using a calcium reactor. Pax Bellum has this mechanism where you can use it to draw water to feed your skimmer. There's a connection you buy, and it's really cool. So you don't use a feed pump for your calcium reactor. You can all use it to draw water into the calcium reactor, and then the effluent goes into the Chaeto reactor, which should, feed your Chaeto with low CO2 water, which should help it grow.
Yep.
But I just never the once I started ramping up the calcium reactor, my pH got too low. So
Mm,
well, not too low, but lower than I got comfortable with. So
that's fair.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's in storage now, hopefully with a bigger tank.
Nice.
Um,
I got all fancy and I got a carbon doser for both tanks now, so it's super duper consistent and controlled. I bought my original one off Derek actually in the chat, and
Saw
after
that.
like a year, I finally broke down and bought a second one because
I
my other reactor was being shoddy.
well, yeah. So let's not talk about shoddy reactors because we have.
Shoddy solenoids?
Oh,
Okay.
ah,
Do you want to talk about it?
yeah.
So,
Um,
reactors, calcium reactors, are made to hold your media in a certain amount of pressure. And there was an instance of overpressurizing a reactor.
it was the solenoid.
Yep.
Just it was a Milwaukee solenoid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I've spoken to you, Greg, and Reef Keeper about this, and I think you all told me the same thing. Like when I called the company, they said that second gauge is not used for anything. I can ignore it. And you
Oh.
guys told me like that's crazy because that tells you how much pressure you have, how much pressure is coming out of the right, how much
Mm-hmm.
pressure is coming out of the reactor, and they said no, it's fine. And I started to use it, tinker with it, and something happened with I guess the solenoid, and it released all the pressure at once. And my brand new Vertex calcium
Oof.
reactor
That
exploded.
hurts.
Yeah,
That hurts. That's expensive.
I heard pop. You know what?
Followed by water.
Yes. I'll tell
Oof.
you one thing though about those Vertex calcium reactor, and I'm sorry Vertex is not in business anymore. The actual acrylic in the middle cracked. It wasn't the seam or anything because that's PVC welded seam. You would think like if there's additional pressure in a reactor, it's the seam, one of the seams or the O-rings would go out. Nope.
Yep.
The actual reactor,
Solid
the
seams.
middle of the reactor, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, that sucked. Did you fix it? You didn't trust it
no,
again, though. You didn't use it.
I didn't trust it. I think, oh, Greg said he was on the phone when it happened. I think producer Reef Dupree has it now. I didn't trust it. I think he repaired it and he's pretty confident in the repair. But
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Yeah. Ah, that sucks. I felt so bad feeling that one. That's a rough one. So that was basically okay. So just to explain kind of what happened, there's dual stage. Most of these regulators are dual stages. So the gas coming out of there is like 600 or 900 psi, whatever it is, tons of pressure. And there's a gauge to tone it down, so you're only allowing less pressure into the second one. I guess on your reactor was buggered or the gauge was fully open or something, but it let a ton of pressure into the reactor all at once and it overpressurized it, so it couldn't handle the pressure and it couldn't escape quick enough, and that's what caused it to crack. So that
yeah,
sucked. Yep.
I don't know if it was dual or single, but um, Yeah, and then those guys never answered the phone. When I called them and told them what happened, I just never. I got a carbon doser after that, and carbon doser was expensive, but it was so much easier to tune.
Yeah, that's the big thing I like about it. If you look at other ones, they won't be as consistent. Like you can get in fairly, but some bubbles will be bigger, some will smaller. Where the carbon doser, it's freaking expensive. Like it pained me because it's freaking expensive, but it's a digital pulse and it's super duper consistent. So if you have a pH controller and a solenoid, you can if it's not consistent, it can turn on and off for you. But if you don't have that, then I think that's where carbon doser has a lot of value, especially because it's super duper consistent. Or if something fails, I mean, you have less risk of it dropping your pH down to nothing. So
Yeah, when I got the carbon doser, I didn't even bother like watching bubbles anymore because it was so consistent. I just watched. You know, you could turn the carbon doser to how many bubbles per minute you want, and I just left it there. I
yeah,
don't think I even after the carbon doser because it was
yeah,
just so consistent. You could hear it ticking.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thankfully, I don't notice it ticking. I was worried about that in my office because I don't have stand panels or anything. I'm like, is it gonna be loud? But it's been okay.
no, no, it's been fine.
Reef Automation. $10 super chat. Thanks, buddy. Credit to my new online store. So he sells Neptune and other automation gear now. So you're getting up there. It's awesome, man. Just kidding. No, you're not. There you go. But thank you. Long time. Wish you come on my live stream. Did not want to miss this one. You're still the man. I will have you on one day soon, Derek. It's been a little while, but it'll be good.
I think John Reefer Vermont has a non-tech question.
Yes, that
A
was
little
next on the
further.
list. Non-tech question. Been waiting for this stream. I want 3 yellow tangs on the same 180 system, and will feed heavy and export heavy. Okay. Now, first question: do you have any yellow tangs now? If you do, they're most likely going to be a bit of a bugger to the new yellow tang. If you don't have any, and you can add all three at the same time, that is your best bet. I find usually once the one that's established will be more of a bugger to the new ones. Now that being said, I had one in my frag tank. I added the second one. It was chaos for a day or two. I ended up making some like ghetto's tank separator. I put a mirror on the tank, so the mirror trick. So usually the fish will be more aggressive towards his own reflection. So to let him tire out and let the other guy settle in. And I got some craft mesh and literally made a divider across the whole side of the tank so that they each had their own half of the tank for a day or two to let them settle in and make sure they're both eating and happy. And then after that, they were mainly okay. And then another local reefer was moving, and he's like, "Oh, do you want another yellow tang?" I was like, "Okay." So then I ended up with a third yellow tang, and now I mean the one benefit of multiple is it spreads out the aggression more, but the one's still a little bit of a bugger, the original one, but they're like 95% good now. Now on the flip side, on my big tank, I added all three within the same week. So no one was established, no one had a big thing, and now they're all buddies. They swim together, zero issue. So if possible, always good to have add them all at the same time if
Yeah,
you can.
I don't have any experience with big tanks, but whenever I've tried to add two of the same type at the same time, you can, and they're smaller, you can usually get away with it.
Yeah.
I have a gem tang, which is kind of my prized possession. I got it for Father's Day a few years ago, and
Nice.
sadly, I had to get rid of my yellow tang.
Mm.
Which then, you know, funny enough, as soon as I gave someone that yellow tang, then the Hawaii ban happened a couple weeks later, like literally 2 weeks later. So I'm kind of sorry I didn't hold on to that yellow tang or tried more. Um,
I've been given 2 yellow tanks since that happened because of people shutting
yeah,
down or moving or tanks or
yeah,
whatever. So I was like, it's
yeah,
crazy. I know.
yeah. I need a yellow tang. Um, yeah,
I
that fish was undervalued, and now people are
100%.
learning the value. Yeah.
It's a crazy pop of color in your tank, and they're awesome algae eaters. Like they're great fish. So I think there.
All day, every day.
Yep. Okay, quick heads up. Today, I actually need to keep it to an hour because I have some family event stuff, people in town I got to go do. So, got 20 more minutes, and I got to
All
kick
right.
myself off, or I'll be done for. Um, what lights are you using? Seymour?
Uh, Pretty much across the board, Ecotech.
Yep.
I think behind me, I have
230s and a 15?
230s and a 15.
Mm-hmm.
On the little tank beside it, I'm using a Prime. Um, my kid's Lagoon, I have an XR30. Long
Nice.
story why it is a XR30 and a 25 Lagoon.
Overkill.
And then on this tank here, I have a AI Prime,
Hmm.
and I have a Hydra 32
Nice.
sitting in a closet somewhere.
So pretty much all
So
ecotech and AI.
probably, yeah,
Yeah.
ecotech across the board. Um, yeah, I'm in New York. They're in Pennsylvania. You find me a huge fan of ecotech. Like,
Hmm.
they usually have good support.
Me too.
So yeah, I try to use ecotech when
Seymour,
I
me
can.
too. I was just
I
laughing. Kyle in the chat is like, where can I get that hat? I actually got this from them when I visited them a year or two ago. So it was one of my loots I snagged from the office there, which was good. Because I like
I
this hat
need
actually.
one.
It's a nice hat.
Yeah. I've experimented with, I think the only lights I have not used, Derek, are the Orphec.
Yeah.
But I have experimented with everything on the market now. Um, I think I've used every, except like, the new Kessel. The new Kessel just wasn't very, very economical to what I wanted to do. I just thought it was, you spend 450, then you need to get a controller. The 360Xs, I use those. I use those with the Aquatic Live T5. I think those were some of the first ever lights I purchased.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah,
pretty
I've
good
also
spread.
tried these with Reef Brights, and
Yeah.
I just ended up turning the Radions like front to back when I needed more
Yeah.
coverage. So, um, yep.
Okay. Now I have a question. If you have a 15 in the middle of your two lights and your kid's tank has a 30, why don't you steal his 30 and give him the 15?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I had initially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even know how I got to the decision of where I did. So I think the NEM tank is what like probably prompted the shuffle.
Yep.
Because I at one point I started out with a Prime, then I
Mm-hmm.
had a Hydra 32 here, the new Hydras. I was getting a ton of algae on the glass, and then a NEM somehow escaped. I don't know how it got here, and it had beautiful color. So I said,
Yeah.
man, maybe it's the Radion. So I put an XR15 here.
Mm-hmm.
I got great color, but I had to, having an XR15 on a 10-gallon tank, I don't care how much you turn it down. I had to clean the glass like every day.
Yeah. That's
So I ended up with the three XR30s here because I was going to move. I was going to move before the pandemic, and
mm-hmm.
I bought new lights. And for me, there was no reason to have new lights and have them sitting in the closet. So I put them on, and I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that sounds logical, and it probably
Mm-hmm.
should have happened, but I don't. Sorry for that long story that went nowhere, but
That's
I
okay.
don't
It wasn't.
remember how I ended up with this here.
No, that's fair. I was just curious because it seems more appropriate to do that setup, but it works.
I had it here. I don't remember why I swapped. I honestly don't remember why I swapped. I think my kid's aquascape, I did a boulder aquascape, and
Mm-hmm.
then I had like some corals that um I figured it out. I
Ah.
think when I hung my kid's lights,
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't do it properly. So it was off to the side. So when I put the XR30, it's more centered. So I
Okay.
decided for aesthetic. So instead of drilling a new hole in the ceiling and hearing, my wife tell me about more holes in the ceiling, I just swapped the lights.
Yep, that's fair. Okay.
All right.
A couple questions in the chat asking about what size tank you have and what gear are you running?
What size tanks I have and what cure?
What gear?
Wait, I didn't hear that.
What gear
You
you're
said
running?
gear. All right, so let's start with this. This is my main tank. This is a Red Sea Reefer 350.
Mm-hmm.
I think in its current state, it's about a year old. I have the tank about 5 years, but in its current state, it's about a year old. Two Radeon XR30 Gen 5s and one Gen 5 XR15, all of the
Yes.
blue. Three MP40s,
Mm-hmm.
um, a chiller, a Teco chiller, two Vectras, one running my chiller and a manifold, and the other one as my return pump.
Nice.
And I try to use Ecotech gear whenever I can. I have the Versa 4 pack on this tank. I'm running Alpha Reef dosing and just doing Brightwell aminos, Brightwell Acro Power, I think. And I mix up Alpha Reef myself.
Hmm.
And then I'm using a Royal exclusive skimmer.
Nice.
And this tank, this is a 10-gallon NEM tank, and the bubble tip NEMs only. And this is running an AI Prime, and it's plumbed into the main tank.
Nice.
Everything, I think I'm at the point now where I'm SPS dominant and everything is stable. So I'm trying to stay away from too many changes.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you see lights here. These are all my controller gear stuff.
Yep.
And I'm running Hydros. I recently took my Apex off and I'm running the Hydros.
How are
And
you
I have
liking
to
it?
say, I like it. I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't missed anything. Um, Someone asked me the other day if every time someone asks me if I like the Hydros, I have to stop for a minute and like really think about it and like, am I missing anything? Like I think Greg randomly like the other day was like, "Hey, how's the Hydros?" And I had to think. I was like, "Am I running the like I don't miss." There might be some stuff on the crazy Apex where you like go in and you're like, "Hey, I just want to program it because I'm in
Hmm.
tech, so you just program what you need." Where this, you have to think about it a little more and do menu. But I don't. I have to say, I don't. I don't miss it, man. It's not.
Yeah.
It's working fine.
Nice. No, solid.
Um, my other tank. This tank here is just hang on the back filter and an AI Prime and a Nero.
Hmm.
And my kids lagoon is a XR30 MP10 little Tunzi skimmer, and
Yep.
that's also running a Hydros.
Nice. Solid. Multiple
Mhm.
hydroses. You're hardcore. So far so good.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have like more of those plug bars than I need, and they're so cool because they're Wi-Fi, and
Hmm.
you just put them anywhere you need them.
Yeah, it's the
I
best
ended up
part.
with way more. Yeah, and dude,
Hmm.
they're so cheap. Like one of them got wet, and I didn't even think about it. Like it's $40. Like why would I need to get it repaired? I just ordered a new one.
Yeah.
And I just put them wherever they're needed. So I needed two here to plug in all the controllers. Then I have two in the cabinet, and then I have one somewhere else. It's so easy.
Hmm. That's awesome. Saltwater Aquarium. Love the channel. Keep up the good work. Thank you for the super chat. But yeah, no, it's super duper easy, man. Like I don't know, that's awesome. The wireless is a huge, nice part of it. I think like you have your little tank beside it. You can automate stuff without running wires. You have your mixing station. Like the Wi-Fi, I think is actually a good advantage. So you don't have to run wires across your house or through walls.
I thought it was going to be so when I first set it up, I think it didn't work as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I use like like an extender.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Mm.
with the last few updates, I think they've pretty much solved that issue.
Yeah.
So I have to, and I'm running their ATO, and I have to say, man, like I got to think about it and see, like, when I've done like the random test where I just go over and I just unplug something, and my stuff still works.
Mm-hmm.
One day my internet went down and I was concerned, but then I realized, hey, you can connect to it via Bluetooth.
I haven't
And
actually tried that. Hmm.
you never did. Just when you open the Hydros app, just hit Bluetooth at the top.
Hmm.
It's
I'm trying this now.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually
I
tried that.
can't believe. Yeah, there's the like the middle button here. That's Bluetooth.
Huh, look at that.
Yeah, yeah, that's Bluetooth. And
I've
so as
never
long as it
tried that.
so if your internet if you are home and your
Cool.
internet is down,
Hmm.
you just as long as your home Wi-Fi is still up, you just hit Bluetooth and it'll connect via Bluetooth
Oh, that's cool.
and
Good to
still
know.
talk to the plug bars.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Very cool.
yeah, I honestly like I gotta think about it. This
Yeah.
little tank,
Mm-hmm.
this little tank here. I'm gonna put a hydros here with um and one other thing about hydros, I have a few. So the hydros doesn't do their 4 plug bars. It doesn't do power monitoring, but I bought a few of the little the single ones that does power monitoring. They're
Hmm.
still Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
but so I plug my chiller and my return pump, so that tells me, so that's one of the things I thought I would miss about my Apex, like
Mm-hmm.
to know when something's out. But you
Yeah.
Yeah, you could get the single plugs that does power monitoring.
There you go. It'd be cool
Yeah,
to do a
I
full power bar that has it eventually, but we'll see. See what comes out.
yeah. Hmm.
AirTech. Is Kessel the best light? I personally really like my Radions. Kessel, it's always bugged me that you need a controller or or a dongle for them. I just think that that should be built in these days. They're super hyper shimmer, so it depends if you would like the shimmer look, but I don't know. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Radeon route.
Yeah. Um, I think if you were a every time you say something like this, the fanboys come for you.
Yeah.
If you are a serious SPS keeper, then I think the Radions. I know. Yeah, we keep having this debate, and there's no win. But my point is, unique
Mhm.
corals, worldwide corals, the farms I know, they use Radions, hands down.
Mhm.
I don't think I need.
Yeah.
I might not be a professional, but the professionals use it for a reason.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, it's tried and true. Reef Wholesale, like I've done a few videos with them, and same thing. They're all Radions. Worldwide's all Radions. Like a lot of places are. I don't know. And they work well. That's why I originally went with them when I first started reefing. Like it was hard to bite the bullet because they're not the cheapest things up front. It was like $1,200 to get two of them for my nano tank, my 3 foot nano tank when I first
Twelve
started.
hundred. They were $800 a piece.
Canadian.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, I got
they're like
Radions.
500 plus the amount. Well, anyways, it wasn't cheap, but I never looked back. But at the time, all the local reefers, everyone with the nicest tanks had them on their tanks. I'm like, well, they obviously work well. So
And I also love I think the first premium lights I bought were Hydras.
mm-hmm.
But one thing I love about like Radions is the AB plus schedule, and I don't mess with it. Because I
Yeah,
remember
I
there's
do.
a long thread on Reef Central called the AI Hydra settings thread, and
Yeah.
everyone was using a little bit more blue, bump up your reds, turn the greens down. I just set it to AB plus, and that's exactly why I got the blues versus the pros. Like I use AB plus. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it's white. I have friends who think I think it's fine enough. I have friends that think it's too white. I have people that think it's too blue. So it really depends. Lighting is very much kind of a preference thing. But for me, I just,
It is subjective, and I like the blue and I like the white, right? So like I went with the pros. My base schedule's AB plus with ramps up and down, but for 4 or 5 hours of the day, I have it much whiter in the daytime, just because it gives you more par of a punch and more of a fuller spectrum. Plus, I also like that crispy white look as well. So I have both, and then
I
I get the
have
best of
some
both worlds.
corals in
Mm-hmm.
my tank. I have some blue corals that a friend of mine gave me. You can't if I run the tank just with like it's ramping down now. If I run the tank like this all day, like the yellows, you see no yellows, you see no blues,
Mm-hmm.
you see greens and everything that pops. But I have some pinks and I have some yellows and I have some blues. You can't see those unless you. So there are periods during the day where it's like I actually go a little bit less on the blues. Where I just want to see like the stuff that's not popping. You can't see it when you run all blue. So, but AB plus for the most part.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's good. So it is personal preference, but to an extent. The other couple aspects are how flat or how dynamic the light is. Because, like the big panel look like T5s or like Neptune Sky or whatever, it's more of a flatter look like a T5 bulb, where LEDs, traditional LEDs are more contrasty. I'd say more like the G4s would be more like that. The G5s are kind of in the middle of the two, I'd say. So it kind of depends
I
on
got caught once
which two.
T5s because T5s look so good on camera when you're filming it.
Yeah,
But then when you're actually looking at it every day, it looks so flat.
yeah, it's
Not only
super
because
flat.
there's no shimmer, there's no contrast.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't run the diffusers anymore because I love that Kessel shimmer, man. Like to me, growing up in Jamaica, like that reminds me of going to the beach and seeing the shimmer lines in the
Mm-hmm.
midday. So Kessel, I always liked the Kessel shimmer. But as I got older, man, that blue, when you have it on that tank with the shimmer, it gives me a headache. Like
Yeah,
now, there would be like you'd see like the ceiling was like a ghost like waving
yeah,
because that shimmer can be crazy. But I've settled on a happy medium with the Radions.
Yeah.
It's
I
I yeah,
I
the yeah.
yeah, I feel like the G5s, because they're like they have that frosted coating that blends really well. I feel like it's in the middle because it has good spread and blending, but you still have some contrast, but it's not super flat. So I feel like it's kind of in the middle of the 2.
The spread on the G5s, I know we've seen the BRS videos, but
Mm-hmm.
I literally have for my kids' tank, I have the thing like 5 inches off the tank because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, any if I put it any higher, like it's in your bedroom, you would get so much light spillage everywhere. So it's
Yeah.
about like this high off the tank because that's the only way I can keep the. I might have to talk to you about getting me. You know, you had the skirts for the primes. I might
Yep.
have to talk to you about doing something to keep the lights into like a because yeah, if you have Gen 5s in like a bedroom or a space that's small, the light is so much spread
Mm-hmm.
that you might need something to keep them in.
Yeah. It's true. Okay, Mark, any thoughts on the Neptune sky? I have not seen it in person yet, so take this with a grain of salt. Um, I don't know. To me, it seems very similar to like the coral care. It is lighter than the coral care, which means it's easier to mount. Because the coral care, the big problem for me at least, is it was a bugger to mount because it was super heavy. Having no fans was good because it's silent. The sky is somewhere in the middle. It is lighter. They do have fans in it, so it'd be quieter. You can hook Apex or not Apex. That's your own kind of preference on that one. The one thing that still messes with me is it's that there's only 4 channels of control. So you can't control all the individual colors, which for the Neptune control freak thing seems a bit weird to me in my head because I'm like, control freak, I want to control it all, but you can't. You only got 4 channels.
Yeah,
So, but I have not actually seen it in person or used it, so I can't fully say yet. But I don't know. I'm curious to see
yeah.
for some other people that are using it. But
I'm gonna see it next week, so I don't know
mm-hmm.
if you want me to like
Just tell me your
call
thoughts later.
you
I'm
when I'm
curious.
seeing it. Yeah. So far from what I'm seeing, like I think it's gonna be formidable. Um, but it's not. It's not. Yeah, I like contrast. I like shimmer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this like full blend. Um, Yeah, for the thing you basically what you said, I was really shocked about the only 4 channels of
Yep.
light.
Yeah, that's what
And
messes with me.
also, yeah, because you're right, like control freaks, it seems to me like, control freaks want to control everything. Also, I don't know why, like I don't know, like I haven't seen the LED makeup
Mm-hmm.
yet. And I don't know why, like I want to see that. Not that it'll change anything because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
changing lights, but um reef automations. How many times do you change colors? That's my point exactly, Derek. Why when people tell me like, hey, like a WXM or some other like apex control of their lights is imperative, that's my question I always ask. Like, who wants to control their lights across the country or when you're not standing in front of it measuring par? I I keep asking people when people tell me like, "Hey man, I apex control of my lights is imperative." I'm like, "Why?" That's always my
Yeah.
question. Why? And you're right. I'm feeling you.
Yeah.
How many times do you change colors? Never.
No,
My success
but
started.
I still like to dial it in to what aesthetically looks good to me and what I think is going to work on my tank. Now, okay, so Phil, okay, so this is the plus up. So he's saying Coral Care only has 2 adjustment, which is right because I had a Coral Care for a few months to try it out. And it is bluer or is it whiter? So I guess 4 channels is an up from that because you have 4 instead of 2. But I like my 8 channels. I like every individual color. But like for
Yeah,
me personally, that's another reason I picked Radions over Kessel because Kessel's bluer or whiter. I want more control than that. I mean, if you're a new reefer and you want it super simple, that could be an advantage to you. There's less options, less control. But I like more channels because if say I got some really cool anthias or like hawkfish and some red corals and I want to make the red pop my tank, I can adjust the red LEDs and it's going to reflect those colors back and pop those colors, so you can target stuff more by having individual control, and that's why I personally like it. So
yeah. And you know what? We can also get when I first got the Gen 5s, that cyan color was a little jarring because it's different than it's not in the Gen 4 at all.
mhm,
But guess what?
yeah.
I I I got used to it.
Mhm.
I feel I'm agreeing with Derek about like how many times do you need to control it. And if it really does have AB plus, um, then I kind of know what it's gonna do, right? Because
Yeah.
I've used AB plus now across two tanks,
Hmm.
two different lights. Um, yeah, so yeah, I know in Europe, um, Dutch reefing, German reefing, and in Australia, I think they light their lights usually from what I see, and just from YouTube, by the way,
Hmm.
I see their tanks on the wider side.
Yeah,
But I think here in America, I think we light our tanks on the bluer side. And blue, like I said, blue is relative. Like
it is.
what I consider AB plus white, but somebody might think it's blue.
Well, it is. It's a bluey white. But I mean, if you look at my tank, from noon to 4 or whatever it is, my tank is much whiter. Which I was laughing because they're like, one of the features, like, you can film over it, you can take photos. I'm like, I do the same with my tank. But I mean, it depends on your spectrum, right? That's with everything. So I don't know. It's interesting. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen in person. I can't say. Phil was also talking about the ATI Straton, which is a similar idea to the giant panel. So I'm also curious about that one. I haven't seen that in person either. That's another intriguing one for me.
You know what I realize? I need more tanks
So that you can have more gear.
so I can try all these lights. Um,
Love it.
One last, well, I know you
You,
have to go soon.
yeah, in like
Um,
2 minutes. You should get one long tank, and every 2 feet put a different light, and you can be like the tester long term of all, and put a chunk of the coral in each one, and you'll be like the ultimate light comparison person.
huh.
When you
Who
move and get a house,
who
roofing with
did
O's
that?
Lightapalooza.
Somebody did that. Who did that? Was it what's the guy in Canada name?
Dimitri.
Yes, Dimitri did that where he tested a bunch of spectrums, right?
Yeah, I think
On
he
the
used radions, but he did different spectrums for different chunks of the
yes.
tank to see how the corals would grow and
Yeah.
compare. Yeah.
I forgot what was the I forgot what was the I forgot what was the results from it, but
Hmm.
huh,
If you
someone is asking me. Oh, go ahead, and then
oh
I'll answer that question.
if you guys want a really good video on light and spectrum, Google my channel from some videos I shot with Reef Wholesale a year or two ago, and talking about like different spectrums and DLI and like how corals will grow differently under higher power for shorter or longer duration. There's some good stuff. But if you guys want some interesting stuff on lighting, you should watch those videos.
All right, Derek, I'll definitely reach out to you. Rob Z Reef, what is your can-do piece of gear on any tank?
Ooh.
What do you think is what is your can-do gear?
Your must have?
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. It's a good question. I'm as like a non-essential gear, but gear that I really like. I freaking love the auto testers lately because I love not testing my tank anymore. Do you have an auto tester?
I had the Trident. I'm waiting on an Alcatronic. Hint, hint, hint,
I'm
hint, hint,
I'm
hint.
surprised you didn't keep your Apex just for the auto testing Trident
I
until you have
did,
something else at
but
least. Like,
I did, but you know what? I've used it and it was convenient, and now I'm back to testing, and I don't, I don't, I don't know what is my go-to piece of gear. What is the gear I think I love on my tank? Is probably Vortex because when I have a ton of wet sides, so you just swap them.
hmm, yeah,
So I probably
huge
have I
plus.
use MP10s and I have MP40s, and I think
Yeah,
I have like 4 or 5 extra wet sides, and the swapping and cleaning is just like yeah. Um, that is yeah. I don't know.
for power heads, I 100% love that feature that you can pop it off. You're like, oh, let me pop my clean one. Done, changed.
Yep, done.
So that part is nice.
I'm you can't see it, but I'm trying something where all the power heads on one side of the tank. And MP40s, sometimes you have to turn them up so high to get them to the other end, and they can make a little bit of noise. So I'm trying that urchin connection from bulk resupply that like makes it like a more of a stream, but it gets to the other side of the tank. So I'm liking that attachment from BRS, the urchin.
Hmm, nice.
Ooh, what are you guys' monthly annual budgets for the hobby? Hold on, let me see if my wife is.
idea.
Yeah, like $200. Yeah, that's it. I
Yeah,
think.
that could be fair.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
For
obviously,
maintenance, right? Or food, or yeah,
yeah, that's fair. I mean,
yeah,
if I buy a new piece of gear, like that carbon doser was like a small fortune. But that was 2 months of rations for that baby.
yeah. Do we? I don't think original.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped buying coral for the most part now. I only trade stuff, so that part saves me lots of money. I used to spend a lot of money on coral, but I have a lot now, and I just like let it grow, and then I just trade because then it's free.
I agree with you. Also, it has sentimental value. So I think I told you the story of like I had these were given to me by a friend, the
Yep.
NEMs. When my tank crashed, so I gave a few to Dave
Mm-hmm.
Nanotank, who died. Really nice guy. And
Yeah.
when his tank was shutting down, Billy Pipes made sure I got the NEMs back because I gave them to Dave. So that's just a nice story to tell. And when you have stuff like that, that it's like
Yeah.
um, one of these days, I'm gonna set up like a Greg Carroll tank where it's all Greg state corals.
That's awesome.
One of, yeah.
I was actually telling a
Um,
story. Just I don't know if it'll green screen out, but like those ones are like the. Oh yeah, they're totally messed with the color, but the
I can see.
Gator.
No, no, no. I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, Gatorades always like same thing. I bought two pull-ups of those from like OSA in Connecticut when I was there for Keep On Reefing a couple years ago. That was two pull-ups, so I got tons. But like it's just I don't know. You're like, oh yeah, I got this coral here, and like, oh, I got that one in New York when I was, like it's cool
Yeah,
to have. I don't know. It's like
yeah. There's
souvenir
a new
corals.
reefer friend I made locally, and sometimes it's like I can't sell him something. I'm like, oh, dude, you can have it, and there's a story behind it. He'll tell
Hmm.
me where he got it from. Because for a while, Dev, I was more friends with you guys on like YouTube before, but now I'm really getting into the local choral scene with the guys, and I know a lot more guys locally. So sometimes when you know people, like it's hard to buy something from them. You're like, they come over and you intend to sell it. You're like, all right, man, you could just have it.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
exactly. Reef Keeper. Do you still have the Space Invader from Phil?
Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is one of my prized possessions. In fact, I've given away a couple frags to people who like are better coral people than I am. So if anything happens, yeah, and I cut it up and put it in each tank. And I've had one die in my nano,
Hmm.
and luckily I still had this. So absolutely. In fact, Reef Keeper, I have already like emailed a few people. Um, I think I want to collect more pectinias, and I've seen a few, so I'm gonna pick up a couple more pectinias at Reefapalooza. Um,
Nice.
so Reef Automation, you buds with Dupree? Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I gotta go ring him. Yeah, I don't think he's in New York right now. I think he's in Las Vegas, and I've been over, take a look at his tank a few times for him. But yeah, good friends with Dupree. Um,
Nice.
before I even knew who he was, like a long time ago when I was giving away fish, I gave it to Dupree, and then years later, he's like, "Aren't you the guy that gave me those fish?" So it's just funny how
That's
how
awesome.
life
It's cool.
keeps going.
It's fun. It is good. All right, I must go. I'm already over time, and I still have to go drive like an hour to get there.
Always a
Thank you
pleasure.
guys for joining. Thank you so much for joining. Shout out Saltwater Aquarium, Reef Automation, John Vermont Reefer, Tracy Spellenberg. Hopefully I said your last name right. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully you guys had fun, and I gotta have you more often. I always like our chats. They're always good. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button. Thanks for hanging out.